Welcome to Weather Extra, everyone. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Jillian Johnson. After a hot and dry summer across the Lone Star State, much needed rain fell in some of the areas that needed it the most as the calendars switched over to September. We get Weather Extra started this week by taking a look back at the rainy week in Texas. Widespread rain fell across the Lone Star State through Labor Day weekend and through much of last week. This was a fairly unusual setup for this time of the year. We had a cold front that stalled across the state and an upper-level disturbance sitting in the Gulf of Mexico. And those two systems brought multiple days of much-needed rain to many Texas towns. Here's the view of the drought monitor from Thursday, August 29th. As you could see, there was a large area of moderate to severe drought across the Big Country near Abilene and San Angelo, with abnormally dry conditions across the Texas Hill Country. Now, fast forward to the latest drought monitor update that came out this past Thursday, September 5th. You could see significant improvement to drought conditions near Abilene and San Angelo, with everyone coming down a level in drought and completely getting rid of those dry conditions in the Hill Country. While last week's rain brought improvements to some of the drought across the state, there's still a lot more rain needed across the state to erase the drought completely. Since the last update, there's still nearly 70% of Texas under some form of drought. Thankfully for us in Central Texas, this rain fell where we needed it to. The drought was the worst across the western half of Central Texas. You could see some of our western counties were under moderate drought conditions at the end of August, with abnormally dry conditions found across the majority of our viewing area. But fast forward to last week's drought update, and there's just a few spots of abnormally dry conditions. Now, this rain did lead to some flooding, especially in those areas that saw the best improvement in the drought. This creek saw a significant rise in water levels out in West Texas on Monday as rounds of heavy rain came down. A local resident in Big Spring captured this footage that shows water gushing through that formerly dry creek. And significant flooding took place across parts of San Antonio this past Tuesday. A motorist used his cell phone to document how his SUV was submerged in a flash flood. Local first responders said 8 water rescues were needed in this area outside of downtown. Streets also flooded in Galveston, Texas, as more than 5 inches of rain inundated the city on Monday. This vehicle you see here was driving through flooded streets on Labor Day. 5.53 inches of rain fell on September 2nd, which broke the record for that date. The beginning of September marked the start to meteorological fall. Now, meteorological summer consists of the months of June, July, and August. For a recap of what the summer brought us here in Central Texas, we bring in First Alert meteorologist Sean Bellafury.
Summer 2024 is officially in the books. Of course, meteorologically speaking, we track the temperatures for summer from June to July and into August. So we're done, thankfully. And honestly, it was a very average summer for us. We had fewer triple-digit days than normal. And although the temperatures weren't too bad, we had yet another summer with rainfall being in a very short supply. Now, typically, triple-digit wise, we get 24 100-degree days in any given year. This year, we've had 17, probably not going to add on any more. For 2023 through August 31st, we had 56 100-degree days. And back in 2022, we notched 2 full months of triple-digit temperatures by August 31st. This year, when you take the average high and the average low, combine them together and divide by 2, we had the 47th highest average summer's average temperature, which it's on the top end of the scale, but compared to 2023, which was the 7th hottest, and 2022, which was the 3rd hottest, yeah, this year is doing a whole lot better. And even when you take a look at just the average high temperatures, we have been in the top 3 list in 2022 and 2023 for those average high temperatures. But this year, we're at 95.9 degrees, which is only the 49th hottest of all time. Like I mentioned, temperature-wise, we're doing okay, but it's the 3rd year, the 3rd summer in a row with a lack of rainfall. 2.89 inches this year. Last year, the 2nd driest with less than 3/4 of an inch of rain. And 2022 featured 3.41 inches. Not bad, but considering we should be at 7.22 inches of rain, and you combine all 3 of these years together and you barely get to that, yeah, we have been desperately needing some summertime rainfall. But hey, it hasn't been too far removed from what was the 5th rainiest summer of all time. That was back in 2022, 14.55 inches of rain. Fingers crossed 2025 keeps the trend going with cooler than normal temperatures and hopefully some more rain. Reporting in the studio, Sean Bellafury, KWTX News 10.
Thankfully for us in Central Texas, we didn't break any heat records for the summer months, but that's not the same story for Arizona's capital city, as they've just experienced its hottest summer on record. According to the National Weather Service, Phoenix, Arizona hit 100 degrees on Tuesday. That marked 100 straight days that the city reached triple-digit temperatures. The streak continued for the rest of last week, and there's no end in sight for the triple-digit heat for at least the upcoming week. This streak is the longest triple-digit streak in the city's history, well past a 76-day stretch in 1993, which was the previous record. Now, the dangerous heat is not uncommon across the desert Southwest, which is why PhD researchers at Arizona State University are conducting a study to help understand the heat's impact on people living in mobile homes. Emma Lockhart has more on this study and how it works.
It's going to be life-saving, I'm sure. I have no doubt.
Deanna Moreau knows firsthand the dangers of living in a mobile home. That's why she's taking part in a study through ASU. PhD student researchers are tracking dozens of people throughout Phoenix, placing heat sensors in their homes and on their body. Deanna is wearing this smartwatch that turns into a survey throughout the day, tracking her body temperature and blood pressure.
It says, "Are you at home?" And I said, "Yes, I'm at home."
Giselle Guzman, the PhD student behind the study,
identify what are the patterns of heat exposure and compare this with other types of housing.
And the information collected could help develop a product down the line to save people experiencing heat-related symptoms.
This watch would send a message to your nearest relative close by, and it would also send it to the central database, which would send out information to 911 and could actually bring you emergency help right then.
Deanna is also taking part in a separate study with a company out of California. Right now, they are installing a reflective film on the roofs of these mobile homes, and the idea is that it reflects the heat and the sun and ideally cools down these units.
All surfaces absorb heat from the sun during the day and they emit heat at night. All this material is doing is allowing those materials to think it's nighttime. And so they start to emit heat. And that therefore become actually colder than the air temperature.
Arjan Soroya is the CEO of SkyCool Systems. He says they are installing this material on a handful of mobile homes in Deanna's North Phoenix neighborhood. And they are sharing data with ASU, hoping to get this product on more mobile homes and warehouses in the future.
Most of these deaths happen in mobile manufactured homes. And Arizona has about 160,000 of these mobile manufactured homes, one of the largest concentrations in the United States.
They've kind of estimated that perhaps it will reduce our temperature inside by about 10 degrees. That's what they're hoping.
In Phoenix, Emma Lockhart for Arizona's Family.
The heat wave last week stretched over along the West Coast as well. Millions from southwestern Oregon through California were under excessive heat warnings Tuesday through Friday. Southern California was one of the hottest locations last week. Many cities in SoCal saw temperatures reaching up to 115 degrees, with highs in Death Valley National Park reaching as high as 120. Another major weather disaster is slowly occurring in Southern California. Evacuation warnings are in effect for about 140 homes in a community that's located about 30 miles south of Los Angeles due to a landslide that's threatening some of the homes. Now, CBS's Jonathan Vigilati is there and has more from those that live there.
We have no power, no water in there now.
81-year-old Sally Reeves is watching her Rancho Palos Verdes home crumble to pieces.
The stairway was coming away from the wall.
For more than 6 months now, every room in the house she's lived in for 42 years has fallen apart as the landslides get worse.
This is what it did to our bedroom.
So this was where our bed would normally be.
Our bed was right here.
And this is the cracking from this landslide.
Yes.
Now the power company, Southern California Edison, has cut off electricity to Reeves and hundreds of her neighbors, citing fire concerns. Homes across this hillside community are experiencing cracked walls and shifting foundations, all caused by centuries-old underground landslides that are creating sinkholes at the surface. One landslide that was recently discovered is as much as 345 feet below ground and moving fast. Back-to-back years of extreme rainfall have only accelerated land movement, as much as 50 feet annually.
There's no playbook for this.
Local officials pressured California's governor to declare a state of emergency. They say it will take billions of dollars to rebuild.
I hope that we can find some long-term solution geologically, but until that time comes, it's only going to get worse.
Sally Reeves is staying put.
We worked hard to be here, and we're here, and we love it here.
So you're not going anywhere.
We're not going anywhere.
And others have no option but to leave. This home has sunk more than 10 feet. The entrance used to be close to where I'm standing. Officials are warning the power outages will likely continue to expand. Meanwhile, there is no clear solution for how to stop this land from sliding. Jonathan Vigliotti, CBS News.
Volcanoes across Iceland have been very active in recent years. And up next on Weather Extra, we learn how some in the country are trying to capture the power of these volcanic eruptions and turn it into clean energy for residents to use. We'll have more on this right after the break. Welcome back to Weather Extra. Iceland has seen an increase in volcano eruptions in recent years, and tourists are traveling to the volcanic island to witness these impressive lava shows. CBS's Tina Krause shows us the dramatic scenes coming out of Iceland.
Plumes of lava burst from the ground in Iceland in the latest eruption on the Reykjanes Peninsula.
We just thought that it was the Northern Lights.
Manar Ali from Maryland thought she and her friend were witnessing another natural wonder until they got a closer look.
It was a volcanic eruption, and it's like the coolest thing I've seen in my whole life.
This is the 6th time the volcano has blown in 8 months after staying dormant for more than 800 years. The eruption began after a series of strong earthquakes, but volcanologists say the rivers of lava are not headed for nearby towns.
The lavas are not threatening any of the infrastructure at the moment,
leaving lava lovers to simply enjoy one more spectacular show in the land of fire and ice. Tina Krause, CBS News, London.
Iceland is home to 33 active volcano systems, the highest number in Europe. And we know that these volcanoes can be deadly, destructive, and strangely beautiful, as you just saw. But can they also be green? Well, Icelandic scientists are working to harness the intense energy stored beneath the Earth's surface, energy which is completely clean. Fred Plankton explains.
The awesome power of nature on full display in southwest Iceland. The Reykjanes Peninsula, close to the capital, suffering a string of violent volcanic eruptions in the past years. Iceland's massive activity, both a burden and a blessing for those who live here. The town Grindavik, close to the eruption site, evacuated, a fissure running right through the streets and the houses. Klara Halldórsdóttir, one of the more than 3,000 residents evacuated last November, says she's had enough and will never move back.
I get goosebumps when I talk about it because it was really, really strange. Just long lines of cars exiting town. It was like in a terrible movie or something.
When things appear to get more calm, a few months later, another violent eruption occurs, as the Reykjanes Peninsula seems to have entered into a period of high volcanic activity that could last months, years, or even centuries, experts say. Keeping the specialists at Iceland's meteorological office, tasked with predicting eruptions, busy round the clock.
The GPS station that's telling us if the ground is changing, it is deforming. We are maintaining the geochemical monitoring that is telling us which are the kind of gases that are leaving the volcanoes.
While volcanoes often have an impact on life here in Iceland, the Icelanders have found ways to harness the power of our violent Earth. Geothermal power plants feeding off the heat, providing emission-free energy in abundance, and leading companies from around the world to move energy-intensive manufacturing like aluminum production to Iceland. Our team traveled all the way to the northeast of Iceland to the Krafla geothermal plant. When drilling a new borehole here at Krafla, they accidentally hit a shallow magma chamber and now are working on harnessing the Earth's energy almost directly from the extremely hot magma. The project's director says this technology could provide clean energy for hundreds of millions of people.
We have a very big part of humanity living close to a volcano. And if we are able to harness the volcano directly, reducing the risk by lowering the pressure and lowering the tension in the volcano, then of course we have a win-win situation.
Using the Earth's natural energy without burning fossil fuels. The scientists acknowledge there is still a long way to go and a lot to be learned, but they also believe the potential energy supply could be virtually limitless and totally clean. From Pleitgen, CNN, Berlin.
Straight ahead on Weather Extra is an episode of Degrees of Science. After the break, we'll hear from a cardiologist who works at Baylor Scott and White Hillcrest Hospital. He's going to talk about a little bit more about the branch of medicine itself and the work he does while on the job. We'll be right back.
The subspecialty of cardiology is focused all around the heart. And the heart has a lot of different functions. So one of it, the main one, is to pump blood throughout the body. But to do that, it has to have contraction of the muscle. The valves all have to work right. The heart rhythm has to be right. And so within cardiology itself, there are subspecialties. And those subspecialties can include just general cardiology, kind of master of all, jack of all trades kind of situation. There's heart failure specialists that are focused on the muscle and any weakness of that muscle. There's rhythm experts called electrophysiologists that just focus on the rhythm side of things. There's interventionalists, that's what I am. We put stents in, so we focus on the treatment of heart attack or valvular heart disease, structural heart disease, anything that could potentially be fixed with a catheter is what we focus on.
So like talking about what you do in here in this cath lab, so you are doing everything really minor invasive, not much invasive with it, you know, not having to cut open and stuff like that, right?
Right, so everything we do in this room is non-surgical, so we don't pick up a blade or a scalpel or a knife. It's done through catheters, so we either go through the wrist or through the groin. And most of the procedures we do in here involve the coronary arteries, so we shoot dye into the heart arteries to see if there's blockage. And if there is a blockage, we can fix that blockage with a stent.
So the heart attack's more something that we can kind of help ourselves out as well.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. So to prevent atherosclerosis or coronary artery disease, which leads to a heart attack, there are 5 major risk factors in the United States for that. And 1 is smoking, 2 is diabetes, 3 is high blood pressure, 4 is high cholesterol, and 5 is a family history. And that's usually a family history of what we call premature coronary artery disease. So if your relatives are passing away or having heart attacks in their 50s and 60s, that's significant for you as a child of your parents, for instance. So out of those 5 risk factors, we really can't change our genetics, yet. They're working on it, but we can't change that. But we can stop smoking. We can address our blood pressure with medications. We can address high cholesterol with diet, exercise, and medications. And we can address diabetes with medication. So we can alter those 4 risk factors and try to minimize the risk of heart disease as much as possible.
You've been doing this for a while. How much improvement in the science have you seen in the time that you've been doing it?
Yeah, phenomenal amounts. I mean, if we look at when the first heart catheterization was done, or the first stents were done in the 1990s, a stent would take 2 hours. Now we can put a stent in at 5 minutes with the same result, excellent result. It's not that you're rushing. In the case of a heart attack, you are rushing. You want to get it open as quickly as possible, but nowadays I think the technology's gotten so much better. The help in terms of the staff in the room's gotten so much better. The doctors have gotten better. And we just do more of it. And so, like anything, I'm sure similar to what you do, the more you do it, the better you get. And that's no different in here.
So what got you interested in this particular part of medicine that you're in?
In terms of treatment of heart disease, and we talk about changing somebody's life or changing somebody's prognosis, nowhere in medicine does it happen faster than on this table. So we could bring people back from this close to death on this table in a second, right? Once that stent goes in and that artery gets opened from closed, we've changed that patient's prognosis in a second. Whereas if you look at other specialties, it takes some time, right? If you're In orthopedics, you break a bone, it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to heal. You even get pneumonia and you're on antibiotics, it's going to be 7 to 10 days before the antibiotic course is done and you start feeling better. So all these things kind of take time, but it's the quickest way to positively impact somebody's prognosis in medicine.
To learn more about cardiology and the work these doctors do, scan the QR code on your screen to watch on YouTube or go to KWTX.com/Degrees of Science. Weather Extra returns after this. Welcome back to Weather Extra. Before we go, we've been talking a lot about the summer heat on this week's episode of Weather Extra. And scientists across the globe are sounding the alarm, stating that the world is on track to have the hottest year ever. Although major heat records were avoided for us in central Texas this summer, there have been numerous record heat waves across the globe that have delivered the hottest summer on record for millions of humans. Now, scientists have confirmed that the summer season broke global heat records for the second year in a row. According to new data from the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service, summer in the northern hemisphere between June and August was the hottest since 1940. Last month in the southern hemisphere, Australia broke its national record for the hottest day, with temperatures reaching nearly 107 degrees. Mind you, they reached that temperature during their winter season. The summer season ends with the autumn equinox, which is in 2 weeks on Sunday, September 22nd this year. Thankfully, it looks like the hottest weather of the season is now behind us in central Texas. We've been blessed with a beautiful fallish weekend, but the streak of these cool fall-like mornings will hang around as we enter the new work week. Get up early and enjoy them. That's all we have for you on this week's episode of Weather Extra. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next time.